You're listening to the very independent Michael Reagan Show.
Yes, you are. How you doing, everybody? Happy holidays. 6 minutes out the hour. We are every day, Monday through Friday. This is where we do talk about the issues, get your comments, your concerns, and all that's going on. You want to get on board? Here's our phone number, 1-800-468-MIKE, 1-800-468-6453. Teachers out there, parents, and kids, this one truly is for you. You know, a teenager was expelled and convicted of a crime for writing violent poetry at school. And that teenager has taken his case to the Supreme Court here in California. And it's in a dispute, of course, over the limits of free expression in a post-Columbine world. We've talked about these issues infinitum on my show. The justices agreed to hear the case involving, we'll call him George T., who happened to be 15 when he was expelled from Santa Teresa High here in California and prosecuted under a criminal threats law. That's right, he was just, writing a piece of poetry, but it was violent. This boy is from San Jose, whose name has been withheld because he is a minor, was sentenced to 100 days in a juvenile hall back in 2001. In the boy's poem, he threatened to bring guns to school and kill students. His attorney said, hey, the boy's prosecution was an exaggerated response to student attacks like the 1999 Columbine High bloodbath that left, of course, 15 people dead. The boy's attorney says that the poem was artistic self-expression and that George T. was prosecuted for thoughts, not actions. As the attorney said, in typical attorney speak, of course, freedom of speech and expression to express unpopular or disturbing thoughts is guaranteed by the First Amendment against all state action, end quote. In the poem, titled Faces, he wrote, and I quote, I slap on my face of happiness, but inside I am evil, for I could be the next kid to bring guns to kill students at school, end quote. He gave the poem to at least 2 students. One of them notified a teacher, who in turn called the cops. Authorities later found other works that read, quote, probably I would be the next high school killer, end quote. Now, his juvenile court conviction was upheld by an appeals court, which found, of course, it reasonable to assume the boy could immediately act on his writings. Needless to say, we'll be following the Supreme Court's ruling on this case. But again, the school expelled and convicted this boy for nothing else but writing a poem. I mean, doesn't rap and hip-hop lyrics do this all the time?
This right here is payback from way back. I don't play that. This right here is payback from way back. I don't play that. This right here.
Yeah, so why do I bring up rap and hip-hop? Because some teachers have decided that these sometimes offensive and violent lyrics could be used to teach kids. That's right, teach your students, your children. So teachers out there, I'd like to hear from you on this one. And the story was brought to my attention last week. I was looking at column 1 of the LA Times. On the whiteboard in a Crenshaw High School classroom were the words, man versus hoe. That's right, man versus hoe. The English teacher there, Patrick Camangian, wrote the phrase to get his students talking about the lyrics by the late Tupac Shakur. Blaze up, getting with hoes through my pager. And it worked. Yes, it worked. A lively discussion ensued about sexism, racism, and how degrading terms such as hoe, slang for whore if you didn't know, can be used to dehumanize and divide people. In hip-hop terms, I guess you could say that the students were feeling it. Teachers nationwide are using rap, you see. The street-savvy, pop locking, rhyming creations of Tupac Shakur, the Ghetto Boys, Run DMC, and others to teach history and English. Some colleges, in fact, are even training future educators to weave rap into the high school lessons. As Camangian says, in order for students to understand anyone else's poetic language, they have to first understand their own. To some teachers and parents, the idea of mentioning Grandmaster Flash in the same breath as T.S. Eliot is really whack. For the older audience out there, folks, whack means wrong. They reject the notion that rap, with its raw language and vivid depictions of violence, has anything in common with literature. But those who use it to teach say rap can be intellectually provocative, shedding light on the grand themes of love and war and oppression, much the same way as classic fiction. As a teaching tool, they liken rap to the songs of Bob Dylan and Simon and Garfunkel, used by, of course, an earlier generation of teachers. In Camangian's South Los Angeles classroom on a recent afternoon, students read the lyrics from a Shakur song, "Shorty Wanna Be a Thug." Now, the verse describes a man's eternal struggle to remain virtuous while a devil-like figure tempts him towards immortality and loose women. Yeah, it kind of goes like this. I tell you, it's a cold world, stay in school. You tell me it's a man's world, play by the rules, and fade fools, and break rules, until we major. Blaze up getting with hose through my pager. Camangian asked the class to compare the song to a speech said to have been delivered in Virginia in 1712 by a British slave owner. Now, in that speech, whose authenticity has, of course, been questioned, Willie Lynch offers advice on preventing slave rebellions and urges that slaves be pitted against one another. Men versus women, light skin versus dark, young versus old. 16-year-old Tori Egan's said Shakur's lyrics showed how the slave mentality persists in disrespectful language. Shakur is reinforcing what Willie Lynch said. He's putting the man against the woman. It's dehumanizing them. So it's the same thing they did to the slaves. Take a powerful man, turn him into a slave. Camangian said that. Or did he ask that? He asked it. See, another student pointed out that some African-American students address one another with racial, slurs, without thinking about the pain such words can cause. Yes, Willie Lynch even said slavery will carry on for hundreds of years, and we still perpetuate it every day in our language. After class, Elsie Bryant, 16 years of age, said studying hip-hop helps students define a role for themselves in their neighborhoods and the wider world. We'll sit in class and really think about what rappers are saying. She said they talk about what's going on in the country, from the government to the streets. The students also gain insight into how poetry is created. When we go into college English classes, we'll know how to break down each line. She said you use the same skills to break down a college textbook that you use to break down lyrics. Another 16-year-old girl said, hey, that hip-hop speaks directly to young people in a way that classic texts cannot. We need to learn about Shakespeare, but hip-hop is history too. As far as Shakespeare goes, we can't relate to that. We can relate to what's going on now. I'll take a break. When we come back, I'll finish this out and see what you have to say about it. What do you think about hip-hop being taught in school? To learn by, to learn lessons by, learn life by. Think about it. I'm Mike Reagan, 1-800-468-MIKE, 1-800-468-6453. So if the kid writes it, he's expelled. If he learns it from the teacher, he gets an A. I'm Mike Reagan at 1-800-468-MIKE. Teachers, kids, and parents out there, you're next up on this, the Mike Reagan Radio Talk Show.
1-800-468-MIKE. We're back with more Mike Reagan.
So what do you think? What do you think? Teacher here in L.A. said, hey, I'm using rap. And he's not the only one. Kids are saying, hey, we need to learn about Shakespeare. Yeah, but hip-hop's history too. Hey, as far as Shakespeare goes, we can't relate to that. We can relate to what's going on now. Mike Reagan back with you. You know, hip-hop has become an object of serious study on college campuses. Stanford, for example, University of Connecticut, Michigan State, Pennsylvania State University. They've offered classes on hip-hop. Berkeley, of course, has a poetry course devoted to Shakur's work. In high school and lower grades, hip-hop is, of course, more delicate. It's a more delicate subject after all. These kids are young. Many parents at Crenshaw High complain that their children have been exposed to a foul-mouthed rap lyrics in class. So now Camangian is required to edit out the strongest language. And I will tell you, I was talking to Todd during the break. Took Todd, all morning long? To what you've heard on the show. Took him all morning long. How long did you say it took you, Todd? Took him 2 hours to, what you've heard on this show in rap, it took him 2 hours to edit out all that language. And many people find this method of teaching plain stupid. Shelby Steele, for example, research fellow, Hoover University or Hoover Institution at Stanford, I should say, and a good friend on the show. I would be outraged to find out my child is being subjected to Tupac Shakur in an academic classroom. He's a political essayist who taught college English for nearly 25 years, said students learn rap lyrics on their own. In school, he said, they need to be taught great literature. But some of the education professors say students need both. They need both sides of it. Many believe that hip-hop can be used as a bridge linking the seemingly vast span between the streets and the world of academics. Some of the professors believe that rap is literature, a worthy subject of study in its own right, end quote. So teachers out there, students out there, do you honestly believe that rap music can be a worthy and useful teaching tool? At the bottom of the hour, we'll talk to Patrick Camangian and see what he has to say. In the meantime, let's talk to you. First one up is going to be Andrea in Texas. Andrea, you're on. Welcome.
Hello. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I would just like to say I'm a high school English teacher down here in Texas, and I have never used hip-hop in my classroom, but I have used Madonna.
Uh-huh.
And the reason that I support the idea is twofold. First of all, our kids are so overwhelmed with things that are easily accessible to them, that the rap music, they listen to it because of the beat. They don't listen to it because of what it says. And if we can get them to analyze the choices that they make in their lives as far as what they listen to and the ideas that they support, and actually make them slow down and listen and think about what's being said, then you have a chance at affecting their worldview.
And what happens is, let me guess, I would imagine, and I'm going to talk to Patrick about this, I imagine the kids pay attention in class.
Absolutely. If you walk in there and you say, okay, we're going to read Shakespeare today, all you get is a bunch of groans and everybody goes to sleep.
Andrea,
that's the reality of it.
The A students go to sleep.
Well, the A students don't go to sleep, but they sit there and suffer through it, but you've got, the problem is, and I don't know how it is in every state, but in Texas you've got, they're still pretty big into the mainstreaming thing. You do have your dual credit, you do have your upper level courses, but I teach the middle of the road. I don't have the AP students. I teach the middle of the road. And so I've got kids in there that if we're not talking about, I literally have probably a third of each of my classes that if I don't work to keep them awake, they will be asleep.
You got it.
That's the kind of students that they are.
Appreciate the call. Thank you very much. Let's go to Joel in Utah. Joel, you're up. Welcome.
Thanks, Mike. I'm a student at a large school, and as a student, I cannot believe that they would teach hip-hop or rap simply because, well, it's crap.
I don't think they're teaching the music. They're teaching the words to it and teaching through it English and what have you, using that as the basis instead of maybe Shakespeare.
Well, if they're using that to teach poetry, I think Okay, let's talk Shakespeare. My class learning Shakespeare right now, I know, first of all, the themes of what's in rap today can be found in Shakespeare. If you're talking corruption in government or whatever else, that's all throughout Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're trying to, and I know my friends and I, and I'm not just saying my friends and I, but a lot of kids I know are enjoying Shakespeare.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's something, I think it's more of if the teacher can teach it well. I think the teachers need to take more of a responsibility in teaching rather than say,
But let me ask you a question real quick. It'd be a last call before I go to a break. If the problem in school today is kids not paying attention, if he can use it to get kids to pay attention and they learn something from it, then is he doing a good job as a teacher?
That's what I'm saying. If you can teach it in a way so kids will pay attention, then why teach something of a lesser quality simply because it will get attention? You can't teach kids the wrong way just because they'll listen.
You got to appreciate the call. Thank you very much. Hey, when we come back, we'll talk to Patrick Camangian. We'll also talk to you, Robert in Utah, and Joe in Georgia. And remember, it took 2 hours just to get this part that you could listen to, so we didn't get kicked off the radio. I am Mike Reagan at 1-800-468-6453. Back right after this.
Remember, you're listening to Mike Reagan.
Really whack.
1-800-468-MIKE.
Welcome back to class, everybody. Mike Reagan here. 1-800-468-MIKE's the phone number. Just give you an idea what Patrick Camangian's got himself into, having to edit out that what parents don't want to hear or the school doesn't want to hear that's going to be in the class with their kids. There were 10 edits in 1 minute of what you're listening to. 3 edits in 20 seconds. The first 20 seconds, there were 3 edits. And I'm sure there's things you're hearing now that they'll probably want to edit out when it gets to class. I mean, a few words in there, huh? Anyway, I'm Mike Reagan. He's teaching it. Mike Reagan here, 1-800-468-MIKE, 1-800-468-6453. Patrick Camangian, welcome to the Mike Reagan Talk Show.
How are you, Mr. Reagan?
I'm fine. You're going to be doing a lot of editing.
Depending on the song.
Well, if you use NWA and use that song I just used, you'd be very busy.
Well, it would take a lot of time, yes.
Where'd you come up with this idea?
Well, I was in I've taken several courses, and I've read different books on how to approach what would be known as urban teaching. And I also sort of used my life as an example of how I was educated, where I felt the teaching of English failed me, and how I thought it could have served my...
You said it failed you, but yet you're teaching it. How did it fail you?
Well, Mike, I wasn't successful in high school, to put it one way, and a lot of it had to do with, I guess, not necessarily what we were reading, but how we were reading it. And it was sort of a unilateral lecture approach, and I guess my learning ability wasn't suited for that sort of environment. But and I look back at my high school years, and I didn't really learn how to read and write as a youth. And when I finally started becoming literate, I would have to attribute my literacy to hip hop lyrics.
Yeah, you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, so you introduced this into the class.
Yes.
And how does it help you with the kids? What did it help? They pay more attention, I would imagine.
Off the bat.
Yeah, off the bat, they pay more attention. So how do you use it? Do you use it in breaking down sentences, or teaching them some moral issues along with it?
Well, definitely, moral issues, value issues, how their values are constructed, and sort of as a narrative to get them to understand how certain their values are legitimized within within their own pop culture.
And okay, so does it help kids? Is this a jumping off point to something else?
Oh, definitely. This is sort of my method on how to teach literary criticism. So I get them to study music that it starts off. I start off the year by asking them to bring in titles of songs that have influenced the way they thought or the way they interact in the world.
So what is it you actually teach at the school?
I'm an American literature expository comp, English teacher, if you will.
All right, English teacher. So they bring this in.
So they bring in their titles, and then I might list different titles on the board and get checklists to see which, how many students, voted this song as influential to their lives, and so on and so forth. And when I, finally go through the lyrics and see what would be most suitable, or the song with the less edits, I might bring that into the classroom in typed out on paper, photocopied, and we would get students to read it, and then we would sort of deconstruct.
What do they say? What's their thought process when they actually read the lyrics? Because you say, basically people hear the beat, the kids hear the beat, they love the beat, it sounds good, they don't really pay attention to the words, but now you make them pay attention to the words. What's the reaction?
In the end, they're surprised at the deeper level of meaning behind the words that they listen to, and they sort of appreciate that the possibilities of changing changing future outlooks.
How do you move them from where you're at into the next grade and into a life to where they're going to have, like you say, a better education than what you have, be able to graduate, actually read their diplomas, and move on with their lives? Because you begin the process. What grade do you start at?
I teach 11th and 12th grade.
So you're junior, senior?
Yes, sir.
All right, so you're the last one they see before they go.
Yes.
When they come to you, how are they? Are you saying that when they come to you, they're not that literate in these issues? Are they more like you were in high school?
I'd hate this. Crenshaw High School is a great place to teach, and the students are rich and intelligent in different ways, and I guess the forms and the ways they have learned have not suited their needs, and the bottom line is, a lot of students don't come to the classroom with the skills necessary or the interest in pursuing.
Do you think when you get done with them in their junior, senior year that they're ready to finally go out in society?
Many of them are. If you pass my class, you're ready. If you don't...
You're one of those teachers.
What type is that?
You're grade tough.
I demand a lot. I demand that you're attentive. I demand that you're fundamental with your writing. I demand that you're critical with your reading, with your listening, that you're articulate with your words, both vocally and on paper. So if they meet those standards, then they'll be ready for it.
How do the other teachers feel about what you're doing, junior, senior class?
To be honest with you,
I don't
think they understand it. I don't think a lot of them, they just know me as a person. They don't know me as a teacher, and a lot of times I feel as though, they just kind of think, okay, that's Mr. Cam, what they call me, and they kind of just go about their business. But the teachers who have come and watched me teach, most of them have been supportive.
Do you explain to kids when you talk about Tupac Shakur? Do you explain to them how he died?
We talk about, well, they sort of teach me about Tupac Shakur. I think that's where their prior knowledge comes in, and I think that's when they are in a position to teach me more about their interests.
But you have to move them past that if they're going to be successful.
Past what?
Past just being, well, you're the one who brought up the kind of the ghetto mentality.
I don't know if I said it like that, but definitely a slave sort of mentality.
Yeah. Oh, slave. You've got to get them past that to be successful. Do they understand that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So how does this get them past that?
Well, I'm building on reading skills, and I get them to understand the ideology of text. And with text, I don't necessarily just mean rap lyrics. I'm not a rap teacher. I don't teach just rap. So then they get to, once you understand the ideology or the logic behind any text, you can apply that same sort of reading skill to any text, whether that be a newspaper article, a journal. It could be even your talk radio show. Mm-hmm. If just as listening, your radio show is a text. So if they could identify the ideology and the logic of your reasoning, they can then decide upon what their reasoning would be, whether it's juxtaposing yours or supporting it, either way. But just as long as they apply those reading skills.
Now, are you catching hell from some of the parents?
I haven't. I think most of the students, when they do, when their parents are approached, when the parents approach the students, a lot of times they'll see that the students they can articulate on a deeper level what I'm teaching them. For the most part, that's the response I've gotten.
What about the fact that these lyrics are violent? How do you deal with that?
Well, it is violent, and I think that's what we want them to understand. And we want them to, with the text, Shorty wants to be a thug Tupac, the one I used in my classroom when Erica Hayasaki came in, the writer from the LA Times. It begins by saying he started off as a middle class, then the reappropriated N-word. He started off as a middle class
N-word.
Yeah, and then he goes, little did you know he wanted to be a gangster when he got a little bigger. So we take that, and we don't, and I'm getting them to understand, look what's happening here. I mean, the story even being told is something of beauty. Is this person coming from the middle class, he's turning bad. Now, how does that happen? And that sparks up a great dialogue. And we don't take the violence that's promoted in the music and say, wow, this is great. We kind of look at the violence and say, well, what is he doing with the violence? Are they glorifying the violence? I let them tell me through a series of question asking. And the bottom line, in the end, it comes down to, well, yes, they are glorifying.
And are they aware? You make them well aware. I mean, they're aware too. And I bring it up with my children, the fact that why is it every time we hear about a death in the music world, it happens to be in the rap music world these days, and it's always a violent death.
That might come up.
Yeah.
If we're discussing the context.
Listen, I've got to take a break. Do you want to take a call or two?
Sure.
Okay, maybe teach a lesson? You got it. I'm Mike Reagan. He's Patrick Camangian. He's a teacher, Crenshaw High. 1-800-468-MIKE's the phone number. 1-800-468-6453. 1-800-468-MIKE. But I guess you already knew that because the phone lines are jammed. So when somebody hangs up, you hang in. I'm Mike Reagan. Back in a moment.
Can't touch this. Yeah, that's how we living, and you can't touch this. Look in my eyes, man, you can't touch this.
Guess who's back? Back again. Shady's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? 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 Guess who's back?
Got something to say? Call Mike Reagan. 1-800-468-MIKE.
1-800-468-6453. That's Eminem. 1-800-468-MIKE. We have on the hotline David Camangian. He's a teacher, Crenshaw High. Teaches using rap. It's your turn to ask questions. I say, I know a David Camangian. I just thought about that today. I was looking at my phone book. Yeah. This one's Patrick. This one's Patrick, right? You shouldn't have friends with the same name. You shouldn't have. Anyway, Patrick Camangian, you there?
Yes, sir.
You ready to take some calls?
Absolutely.
All right, let's get some in here. Where are we going to go? Let's go where first? Let's go to Robert. Hi, Robert, in Utah. You're on with Patrick Camangian.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Patrick. How you guys doing?
Good. What's in your mind?
Here's the deal. I've been in the hip-hop world, the hip-hop community, and radio. I actually work for Clear Channel, and I've been doing this for 20 years. My first suggestion is, I heard the teacher that called in before you, and she said that the kids don't listen to the lyrics. I disagree because in the good old state of Utah, it took so many years for the white kids to even get into any kind of like a black music, an urban-driven art form. And it wasn't until the music became negative or violent that they got into it. And on the other side, I think it's perfect that as a teacher, you're going to try to understand where the kids are coming from, understand the world around us, because we all know the media controls so much of our lives.
Not Clear Channel, of course, but the media does.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
Clear Channel, the radio thing?
Here we go. I mean, what I'm saying is, if you are to teach rap in the classroom, let's first talk about.
I think he's teaching. I think Robert. I think Patrick. Let me get this right. You're not teaching rap. You're teaching from rap.
From rap?
From what I'm saying. Here's the rap. Now let's learn the lesson from it.
Yeah.
You're not teaching rap per se, Robert. So when you say teaching rap, it's not like he's not teaching a rap song. He's using rap as the basis to teach from.
No. I'm not. I'm saying, in order to say, okay, kids, this is what Tupac did, or let's understand this, or let's understand this. We can learn from it in a positive way, but we have to realize that this is mostly fabricated. These are record labels who have so much money. These are, I remember the days.
Yeah, Robert, you're making more of a statement than you are asking a question. So if you have a question for Patrick, make it. You there, Robert? Yep. Okay, goodbye, Robert. Thank you very much. Let's go in and check in with Kathy. Kathy, you're on the Mike Reagan Talk Show with Patrick Camangian.
Yes,
yeah.
hello.
Hi.
I just wanted to make a comment that this debate kind of reminds me of the debate that went on in my church in Southern California. Older people didn't like giving up the hymns and all the tradition and the responsive reading, but yet times have changed, and now we sing praise music, and we have guitars, we have drummers. It's just changed. It's just the method of getting the same message across.
Yeah, boy, I understand that. I bring people to church on the way, and we raise our hands, and people like faint. Oh, my God, they're raising their hands.
But yet the older people, they're used to the old hymns.
Yeah.
The times have changed, and you have to go with what is what's valuable for today.
Good analogy, Patrick?
That's a starting point, definitely, yes.
Yes, let's go to Valerie. Valerie, you're on the Mike Reagan Talk Show with Patrick Camangian.
Hello.
Hi, Valerie.
Hi, Valerie.
Hi. In high school and college, I was very active in drama and in music and learned lots of lyrics. 30 years later, I still remember these lyrics, and they are nice lyrics. I don't want my kids to have these lyrics in their head for the next 30 years. And I've taught little theater, children's theater, and we've taught them songs and lines from plays that have good things to say. Are these kids that you're teaching going to have this filth in their head for the next 30 years?
Well, Valerie, what I hope for is that they remember the discussion that was engaged from the text more than the text itself, because the text was brought to the classroom to examine their own views and values and lifestyles and direction in life. And if I did my job as a teacher, some students walked away from the discussion, rethinking to themselves their own values and direction in life, and who is allowed to control what they think. So, to answer your question, hopefully they remember the dialogue and not the lyrics only.
Valerie, appreciate the call. What would happen, Patrick, if somebody in your class wrote the same kind of lyrics? Just wrote them out in class on a piece of paper. How would the school deal with that? I mean, you could bring in a song and it talks about death and destruction, but if a kid actually wrote that down, how would the school react?
How would the school
react? With all the zero tolerance programs out there today, how would the school react if they wrote the same things that we're listening to in rap?
Well, you see, Mike, the thing is, the students do. A lot of students do, and they learn from those who are being published. So, what has happened? What has happened in my teaching is, I'll take a student's lyrics, maybe nutrition or lunch, and these students stay at nutrition or lunch. These are students who don't like school, but they stay in my class for nutrition and lunch because we're speaking about something that's tangible, real to them, influential. So sometimes some students will stay and show me their lyrics, and it will go through that same process and say, well, okay, so why do you keep saying this to refer to that? And why is this such a big deal for you to continue to reiterate? And is this exactly what you want to communicate? Now let's look at it at a deeper level. If 1,000 people are influenced by these lyrics, what are they walking away from these lyrics understanding? And then they start reevaluating how they write. They reevaluate their message to the world. And if they understand it, in the end, they'll say to themselves, wow, how did I come to believe this? And do I want to continue the cycle?
You know, as I listen to you, really, I mean, because I think you do a much better job than the LA Times did. As I listen to it, you know, we conservatives out there will bitch and gripe and moan and say, gosh, what he's doing, I can't believe you're teaching rap music and so on and so forth. At the same level, we'll also say, you know, nobody in the schools today really teaching anything moral or any values. That's what's wrong with the public schools. They're going to hell in a handbasket. We need prayer. We need all this stuff. And what you're telling me is you are teaching morals and values.
They're teaching me morals and values, and I'm teaching, and we're reflecting together. So.
All right. Danny in Texas, you're on the Mike Reagan Talk Show with Patrick Camangian, your last caller.
Thank you, Mike. I want to tell you I love your show.
Thank you.
Listen to it all the time.
Good. Ask your question.
I find it hard to believe that they're going to take something good out of it. Like the caller earlier said that, you know, she remembers lyrics from 30 years ago. I'm the same way. I remember all the songs when I was growing up, and I think it's just.
And these kids are going to remember the songs they grew up with.
Right, but I don't think they're going to take the good out of it. I think they'll just get what society is going to fit. I mean, you know what I mean?
You know, they're good, like Mike said, they're going to remember any lyrics regardless. So hopefully the discussions we do have will offer them a different perspective on the discourse.
And you know, so to be honest with people, I remember rock and roll when it started. I remember Rock Around the Clock. I remember the Big Bopper. I also remember how my parents reacted to it. They thought the world was going to go to hell and come to an end. And I remember my dad used to tell me, the Beach Boys, how could you listen to that crap? Now, of course, they're the icons of the world. Patrick Camangian, thank you for spending time on the Mike Reagan Talk Show. I appreciate Crenshaw High School teacher doing something different, teaching values, teaching morals through rap. You know, may not be such a bad idea. At least he found a way to get their attention. I'm Mike Reagan. Thanks for listening. See you on the web, Reagan.com.
You've been listening to the very independent Michael Reagan Show on the Premier Radio Networks.